What's going on there, Twitch and YouTube world? Welcome to Holosites TV. Today, I'm here to talk to you about patch notes, baby. Because, well, the Off the Grid team has blessed us with some change. Change. Good for everybody. Well, hopefully. We're going to get into the scoop in just a couple moments. If you take a look here to the right of our screen, we are going to go over the patch notes that were posted on July 8th of 2026. And there are 7 major categories that really summarize a absolute onslaught volume of changes. And I think it has now put Off the Grid in a wonderful state. We'll talk about some of the things that probably got people frustrated, and we'll talk about some of the things that got people jumping for joy. First and foremost, we're going to go over the performance balance baseline, the weapons, cyber limbs, character stuff, gameplay and NPC, the world, and HUD and UI. Starting off with the performance baseline, a new FPS every platform. Get a 3-time uplift on the RTX series PCs, up to a 2x FPS on the M4 Max, and Max gains are on the way, promised by the devs here, and increased graphics plus FSR improvements on console. I think this is very important because console gamers have something that can always be looked forward to, and that is the AMD architecture driving their GPU performance. As FSR continues to improve and get better, the newer platforms, the more modern PS5s or the PS5 Pros or your new Xbox Ones, these are going to be able to evolve with AMD. So I'm excited for you guys, and I think your game performance is only going better. This is just the tip of the iceberg is today. You get fewer FPS drops and a more consistent frame rate, and that is the baseline, not the finish line. Like the expectations there from the devs, commit to future improvements. Now, one thing I will tell you, folks, is that I personally was averaging on the game fully maxed out on Ultra. I get it. I have a 4090, but I was getting anywhere from lows of 140 to highs of about 185 ish. Now I am currently getting lows of about 170 to highs of about 220. So I would absolutely say the devs have done a fantastic job. The game feels a lot smoother, more fluid. Actually, to be honest with you, feels a lot faster. It reminds me of Off the Grid in December of 2023. This is the game I fell in love with. This is the game I think a lot of players fell in love with, and with these recent optimizations, that's what things are starting to feel like again. One of the things I think is going to, of course, be a common complaint among the community is, are there bugs? Absolutely. You still run into the occasional error on the screen that doesn't make any sense. Some issues there with the optics when snipers are in play, or that good old fashioned weapon swap bug. That one's our favorite. But overall, when we talk about performance, I absolutely got to give the dev team I got to give them their props, man. They did a really, really, really great job. And I would actually say, if I were to give this like a 10 scale based rating, 8.9. We give it 8.9 out of 10. Damn, Off the Grid. I didn't know you still had it in you like this, and it makes me very, very, very excited to see what you have to offer us in the future. Keep it coming, baby. Moving forward, talk about the weapons. A total overhaul of every weapon, fire modes, RPMs, recoil spread, range velocity, and weight. New dynamic recoil shares kick between the camera and crosshair. Attachments move a point budget. A lower rarity weapon carry handling penalties that vanish at epic, and existing setups are reset. Don't forget, build loadouts. I'll be releasing of course, loadouts to win games video following up this video to help you kind of figure out or navigate some of these changes. I think the weapons, for the most part, are in a great spot. If you tuned into my last couple streams, I have spent hours doing practice range weapon testing. And the weapons are, in fact, baseline. SMGs on average are going to be anywhere from 1 to 1.2 seconds. That's, I'd say, their range in performance. And when it comes to the assault rifles, they're going to be anywhere from, I'd say, 1.2 to about 1.4. We'll get into what is kind of mix and matching those times that I'm giving you in the loadouts video. So I encourage folks to tune in and learn a little bit more what I have to say when it comes to that. But there's no real crazy difference. Now, obviously, with those times that I gave you, we're no longer talking about zero point zero 0.07 and zero point zero 0.09. And that means, folks, the TTK, a little bit beefier. And I think that has got some people in the community a little bit tilted. Me personally, I come from the era of games that had shields, things like Halo, Gears of War, so on and so on. I'm so tired of everybody just being absolutely addicted to being able to eviscerate a team in zero point 0.5 seconds. Yay, I killed 3 of them, 1.5 seconds. I'm the greatest player alive. It just tells me that you want to be the greatest shooter. Well, if there's more TTK, you need to prove you are consistently the best shooter. And in a game like this, where movement has the ability to offset somebody's aim skill, it marries everything together perfectly. So I'm a huge fan of the weapon changes personally. I do think that there's some room for opportunity in the overall meta, if you will. There's some things that definitely need to get fixed. In particular, I'd like to see shotguns as well as marksman rifles brought up to a little bit of a better spot. I'd like to see the prices come down. We'll talk about that in another section as well, but I'd like to see the prices come down a little bit so pistols actually have a reason added to loadouts. Yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to weapons. I'll talk about that a little bit more in my next video. Cyber limbs, every limb rebalanced, so rarity actually matters. Quality of life fixes and roll redesigns across the board. The legendary Ghost pending design. Doesn't look like the devs actually committed to that particular limb, or maybe they took it out and added it back in. I just honestly couldn't tell the difference. And with that being said, Ghost feels exactly the same. Cool. Limb meta, fantastic. The limb meta right now is in the best place it has ever been, ever. Devs, keep doing what you're doing. I know what you're cooking up over there, but it brings a tear to my eye. I like it. Just nerf skunk ball. Appreciate it. Moving on to the character, the new limb toughness system grants the 50 bonus HP per limb plus more rarity, making limb loss far less likely. Jetpack dash moves to 1 charge on a 3-second cooldown, and wall jumps are roughly 3 times stronger. This is probably the pinnacle of things that I love when I focus on, like, what are, other than performance, like, what are the things I really want to see change in the game? Devs hit the nail on the head. The limb toughness ties directly into the TK discussion that I was just having. And again, I'm so tired of everybody being addicted to games that aim for them and games that allow you to kill people because you happen to catch them off guard and don't want to have someone outplay you or a chance to outplay you. Think about the days when you used to be able to fly infinitely. Well, the devs made it so that way people can't fly infinitely. Limbs are going to go on cooldown, your jetpack's going to overheat, and you will be able to catch your target. So who cares if you got to spit out a few more rounds? I got into a little bit of an argument with a guy on Reddit who decided he wanted to cry cheers. Well, sorry, bud. Get better at the game, to be quite frank with you. He said that I was terrible at mouse and keyboard, but every time I bump into him on the teardrop, it's an easy win. So I don't think it's the TTK. I think it's the choice of weapons that you're using, as well as your inability to adapt. Moving forward off of character, we're going to get into gameplay and NPCs. The zone shrinks more aggressively. Hex extraction is simplified with generators removed. High rarity loot is drastically rarer, and NPC senses and target acquisition sharper. This one's a little bit of a controversial one. I think there's some really great things, but there's some really worrisome things. So let me explain a little bit more. The zone shrinking in a much more aggressive way is fantastic. Makes the games in and out quick, efficient. I don't got to spend 1 hour playing Loot Simulator. Well, or do I? So the devs unfortunately decided to increase the overall cost of our loadouts, which has resulted in us spending a lot more time in the early game trying to get loadout money together and buying our loadout. Now, the problem with this is that if the circle is coming in quicker, sooner, doing more damage to you and hitting a lot harder, if you die, you now have to come back and play Loot Simulator all over again. And with the skill level of the overall player base that has stuck around the longest, it can kind of make the new player experience a little bit of a rocky journey. Now, let's add in bots that basically get to aim bot slash laser you if you get with anywhere near 10 feet or less. If the bot has something like a woodpecker or a shotgun, you are going to get deleted. And I think that, to be honest with you, is a rough way to introduce the game. Now, I'm not a fan of the bots. I never was team bots. In fact, I think that's one of the main things that have brought Fortnite down throughout the years because as the player base starts to dwindle, which is inevitably going to happen to every game, nobody wants to spend time in the lobbies farming bots. Or do they? You know, as a miniature little like sidetrack, what's up with these players gloating about their bot farmed KDs? I've been gone for about a year, and there are literally people talking about how amazing they are because they got this 24 KD. I got a 12 KD. You got a 12 KD because you didn't play anything else but off the grid the last year in a time where we had so many good games released. And you were killing non human people. Your stats are fake. I can't respect it. I can't recommend it. Do better off the grid players, please. Come on. Like, that devs, do me a favor. When October arrives, hard reset all of the stats. Just humble the community. It would be a really great idea. All right, moving forward. Back to the bots. They're a problem, man. I've seen some of the best players in the community right now drop in for a quick engagement with the bots, and they are getting torched. However, it's kind of intermittent. You don't know whether the bot that you dropped on is quite literally a bot or a freaking T3 from Terminator deleting you in less than 0.5 seconds. Like I said, if they got a close range weapon like a woodpecker, you are going to get absolutely deleted. There's nothing you can do about it. And then you know, on top of that, you're already having to deal with a highly skilled player base. Now add in even more, right? Along with our aggressively closing in circle, stupid turrets throughout the entire map, also aimbotting you. My recommendation for the devs is please, whatever you're doing with the turrets, either take them out the game completely, hashtag do not recommend, or you need to make it so whoever is person shooting, right? If I'm getting chased as a new player, the guy shooting at me is what the turret should naturally focus on. If you guys do not know how to program that or develop that, then I just honestly recommend you take them out. I get it. I get it. I really do. You're trying to implement other things to really flush out that campaign experience that we're all looking forward to in October. But they really make the game an awful experience for newer players. I want you to imagine that I got Flaw Jack O' Lantern on my ass. I made that name up, by the way, but shout out to one of the best teams in the community. Well, let's say I got Flaw Jack O' Lantern on my ass, and he's flying behind me. I'm busy zigzagging, I'm jagging, I'm trying to save my own life here. I'm doing relatively okay. Top tier aimbot guy, he's not killing me. But you know what, Will? When I fly over the wrong building that has a turret aimbotting me, it's not a good look. I want to die to players, not AI. You got to find a better balance for that whole like PvP, PvE situation. But I've rambled off enough during this particular section. I'm going to move forward. Next, we have the gameplay and the NPCs. Oh, already covered that. Let's move on to the world. Look up the sky, lighting across teardrop, and complete overhaul, bringing a warmer, brighter, and more realistic look to the world. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really notice a lot. The game looks brighter. Pretty much it. Looks cleaner, looks brighter. For those of you who are kind of dibble dabbling with your graphic settings, I highly recommend for those on a decent performing PC, use the transformer option instead of the CNN. You're gonna notice that your game just it not only looks a lot better, but performs a lot better. And that's how I was able to get those two highs in terms of FPS while also having a good, smooth experience running the game on ultra settings. That's really it. Moving on to the HUD and UI. This is the last item to round off some of the changes that have been made. Significantly sharper HUD above 1080p, a new dynamic crosshair that reflects your actual point of impact, and updated. So the dynamic crosshair is actually phenomenal. I have noticed a significant improvement in my aim and accuracy. One of the things I used to give the devs feedback on in some of my prior videos was that it it wasn't accurate. I used to be able to add a crosshair X, the software, or the one that's built into my monitor, and it would be completely offset from the center of the screen. So it's really nice to see the devs kind of do something to compensate what I think was a flaw in the game before. And yeah, it's just automatic win. There's really not a lot we got to spend talking about, right? And the loading screens are pretty cool. They're all right. You know what I mean? I'd like to see more of them, to be honest with you. Like give us some of the background. I honestly, you know what? Here's a recommendation for you off the grid. Give us some really awesome loading screens that we can put in our appearance tab, right? Like if I want to look at Crackhead Santa, I want that to be my loading screen. So take my pitch, throw it out to your crew there, and yeah, I'll spend some of my gun for a badass loading screen. Your life's easier and make some money at the same process. Food for thought. With that being said, I guess my overall, like if I were to give, like I said, if I were to give a finalized rating, I'm going to give it an 8.9. Update is an 8.9. I'm going to give it the same rating I gave the performance rating because the game feels phenomenal. It reminds me of Off the Grid of the old day, of that early release launch, except now it's actually optimized and smooth. For me, having a really great system, it's always been that way, but I think now other people are truly going to experience the game at its best. For the crybabies on Reddit worried about the TTK and how hard it's making their life, adapt, overcome. And I think you will find your passion to continue playing. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the limbs or the current weapon meta or how to be able to tackle these high prices, a laugh a teardrop. Well, I've got your back on that. Our next video, which is going to be loadouts to help you win games. This is HoloSites TV reporting to you live here at the Teardrop. And until next time, folks, peace, love, and happiness. I'll be easy.